right. Great to be here. Actually very, very excited for today's round. This is my first debate tournament and going on 4 years. I used to, try to be successful in this, and this person is very responsible for so much of the success that I saw in debate, being there from when I was just a baby. So thank you so much to Lindsay for everything she's done for me. And if Judge, it comes down to a very close ballot, you've got to vote for the student and not the master. It's the only way that you could do this. So today, there's a lot of serious things that happen in America. To be 100% honest, a lot of serious topics that we've got to address. I think this might be the most serious of them all, and that is Timothée Chalamet is overrated. So a couple definitions. Timothée Chalamet is the actor known from Lady Bird, the Dune movies, the most recently the Willy Wonka that just came out, is being a present tense verb. And overrated is basically he is achieving things that he doesn't deserve. He's getting more fame, acclaim, movie roles, all these kind of things that he doesn't necessarily deserve. If you say, hey, he deserves every single thing that he has when it comes to success, feel free voting in favor of the negation. I doubt that's the way today's round is going to go. So I've got 3 contentions for you today. The first contention is Nepo babies go crazy. The second is numbers, and the third is not earning what you eat. So let's hop into that first contention, which is Nepo babies go crazy. So we all know that Nepo babies have been a term that has started to increase in terms of popularity in the past couple years with the rise of social media, TikToks, and things of that sort. Essentially, a Nepo baby, root word Nepo coming from nepotism, is somebody who had things given to them from a parent that was in a great situation. Think Chelsea Clinton, Ivanka Trump, all these people that are sons or daughters of very powerful people. We see the same exact application when it comes to Timothée Chalamet. Coming from The Guardian in 2023, they reported that Timothée Chalamet's mother was a renowned Broadway actor, and actually his grandfather was a screenwriter of a movie called Birdwatcher that was actually starring the one and only Sidney Poitier, the first black man to ever win an Oscar in the history of the Academy. What does this mean? What impact does this have on today's round? Essentially, this guy was born into Hollywood royalty. And when the key root word that we're analyzing here is royalty, people earn positions that they didn't necessarily earn. They view it as their blood right. The same exact thing applies to Timothée Chalamet in today's society, that he basically has inherited generational wealth, not only in terms of finances, but mostly in terms of connections. How do we see this impact him in getting things that he doesn't necessarily want? Contention number 3 will be very impactful, and I predict it will be a voter. Before we get there, The Guardian also reported that Timothée Chalamet grew up in Hell's Kitchen, New York. I actually lived in New York for the majority of last year, and I can tell you Hell's Kitchen is a very pricey, very expensive neighborhood. If you do not necessarily know this, we can see that he actually lived in the very same building as Larry David, the person who founded and wrote Seinfeld, the most successful sitcom of all time, and Alicia Keys, New York, herself. He lived in the same building as these people, meaning that he grew up in artistic royalty, New York royalty, Hollywood royalty, and that actually led to a lot of cascading effects where he got things that other people didn't have opportunities to get. So that leads me into number 2, the numbers. He's significantly more popular than actors that the Academy and the audiences that have seen movies would say are significantly better. If you go to TikTok, the #1 social media app right now, and you just look at number of posts per hashtag, Chalamet, for example, has 900,000 posts right now. Denzel Washington, a 2-time Academy Award winner, for example, has 100,000. Rami Malek, Oscar Award winner, has 32,000. We see that Jamie Foxx, Oscar Award winner, has 61,000. Tom Hanks, 2-time Academy Award winner, has 78,000. We can see that Timothée Chalamet is significantly more popular, not more popular than just his peers, but those who have come before him and actually laid the ground for an actor like himself to see so much success. When it comes to Chalamet versus others on the social media platform called Instagram, we can see that Timothée Chalamet, for example, has 19 million followers. In comparison, Tom Hanks has 9 million. He's been around doing this for a while. Forrest Whitaker, another Academy Award winner, has 250,000. The third contention is not earning what you eat. BuzzFeed reported in 2023 that Timothée Chalamet's agent revealed, this was last year, that Timothée Chalamet hasn't auditioned for anything whatsoever in the last 7 years. The impact of this is, a year later, it's actually been 8 years where he hasn't had to earn, he hasn't had to fight, he hasn't had to scrap the way that these other actors have for the acclaim, the lead movie roles that we talked about at the very beginning. And a lot of this solely is because he was born into the right family, which is great for him, but that doesn't mean that he deserves or has earned the success that he's seen. For that reason, I ask you to cast a ballot, favor the affirmation.
All right, Keithen, you ready to go?
Ready?
Judge as well? Awesome. Wonderful speech, as expected, my friend. Let's pick up where you just left off here. How many other big-name actors actually still have to audition when they're in their successful run of their career?
I'm not too sure. I know, somebody like Robert Downey Jr., he's been around forever.
Yeah,
There's screen recordings of him having to audition for Iron Man, for example. It's out there on YouTube.
But since then, when his career has really skyrocketed, do you think he had to audition for a project like Oppenheimer?
I'm not sure. I'm not too sure.
Cool.
It's possible, possible not.
We'll talk about that more in a minute here. So obviously a resolution like this requires a bright line. So how much would you say he deserves? Whether it be attention, success, whichever aspect you want to talk about.
I don't have to say specifically how much he deserves. The bright line is he deserves less than what he has.
Right. By how much?
I'd say significantly. He deserves significantly less in terms of him being the lead in a big franchise like Dune or Willy Wonka or Interstellar, all these kind of things. If you're not
so you
having
talk a
to
lot
audition
about
for
you talk a lot about how his connections got him where we are right now. Do you have any actual, supporting evidence of that? Given he also went to, acting academies and studied and put in effort and put in work.
No,
where did those connections pay off for him?
100%. Even if we're going to buy that argumentation that his studies have gotten him where he is, how did he get that advantage to get into those acting programs? I mean,
Is it not on him to seize the opportunities that are put before him?
Yes, but if those opportunities are unfair, I think that's what today's round is about.
Now, we don't have too much time left, so I want to get to kind of the crux of something here. What are some factors that influence popularity?
There are many. A lot of it is industry push, I would say, is the biggest one.
So on platforms like TikTok, Instagram that you mentioned, what would cause somebody to engage with the hashtag, follow an account, things of that nature?
I think the biggest thing that leads to popularity with those hashtags is the push coming from movie studios, and that's where those connections become so intrinsically connected and important in today's round.
Okay, thank you so much, Keithen.
Thank you so much.
You ready to get going?
We're ready.
Judge as well? Awesome. All right, y'all, this is the first time you're hearing me speak, so I want to thank you all for being here. Keithen was so right in the beginning of his speech when he said that we've been doing this together for a really long time. I knew him when he was a novice, so getting to debate him as a professional right now is like a heartwarming moment for me. That said, the teacher taught the student what he knows, so don't really buy his go for the student analogy there. That said, let's go into the resolution. Like he said, the most serious thing of the day, Timothée Chalamet is overrated. Judge, the first thing I'm going to do on the side of the negation is kind of go over the terms and framework that Keithen presented for us. We can agree with the majority of it, but it's important to reiterate that. First is this burden he has to show that we're talking about the status quo right now with some degree of certainty, right? Not just a little bit, like he said in cross-examination, we have to see a significance here. Additionally, when we talk about the definition of overrated, I think he put this in a great way for us. Achieving something he doesn't deserve. Judge, today, the two aspects my opponent really talks about here are the roles he's received or the popularity he has garnered. I, in my speech, will show you how that popularity and the roles were actually earned by Timothée Chalamet, and therefore, it's not overrated or overzealous of the industry to reward him with success, considering he has earned it. We'll start by looking at the negative case, because a lot of our arguments will cross-apply, but then we'll talk back to the affirmative with some unique arguments as well. The first contention I have for you is the personal. And this really relates to Keithen's argumentation, specifically about the celebrity aspect, right? How people engage with him on Twitter, on Instagram, things of that nature. Because it's more than just what films you were in that cause people to engage with you on social media. It's also how attractive you are, how you treat your fans, the way you interact in those spaces as well. Timothée Chalamet knows he's a beautiful man, even if we don't know what he looks like in this world. He's like a Tom Holland type, same man, different font. And what we know about that is a lot of young women think of him as a heartthrob. He capitalizes on that by joining Teen Vogue to do puppy videos and spend time with that and reach out in ways that his fan base directly engage with. He also uses these platforms in a capacity that other actors such as Denzel Washington don't, simply because of the age difference. These men are simply different, and comparing the amount of followers or interactions does not mean that the way that Timothée Chalamet is being received by the public is unwarranted, rather that he may just have more media literacy and able to engage in that way as well. British Vogue talks to us about one of the main reasons the public loves him is because he's a fashion icon. Britannica goes on to say that he ushered in a new era of masculinity. This is one of the main traits that individuals love about Timothée Chalamet, is that he doesn't represent hyper-masculinity. In fact, he'll show up in a dress or a boa or anything of that nature because he's not afraid to express his feminine side. This is incredibly important, especially in a country where hypermasculinity can be really, really toxic at times. Timothée Chalamet is a breath of fresh air, and a lot of his fans want to celebrate that. It doesn't mean one is right or one is wrong, but it's certainly not wrong for his fans to engage with him because they feel connected to him as a person. Additionally, Ben Mendelsohn, a co-star of his in The King, talk about how we don't deserve a celebrity like Timothée Chalamet because he is so kind. He goes out of his way to help people on set, work with producers, learn the cast name, learn the crew's name, and engage at a very kind level personally. But moreover, let's look at my second contention, which is professional. Professional. And here we're really going to engage with that Nepo babies go crazy idea that my opponent presented to you. Ultimately, this analysis from my opponent doesn't engage with his talent. Yes, he came from a family where his mother was a Broadway actress. His dad worked for UNICEF for the United Nations, and it's awesome that he had opportunities put before him. But it was on him to seize those opportunities. Timothée Chalamet has a sister as well, a sister who works in the entertainment industry. However, she has never been able to match the amount of success that he has. She got maybe one role as a dancer on Broadway, I believe, but Timothée Chalamet has continuously picked great projects in size and in scope. Let's look specifically at some projects. Wonka, my opponent mentioned, has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 91% and had a net profit, of $388.2 million. Call Me By Your Name had a 94% Rotten Tomatoes score and grossed $39.6 million with only a $3.5 million budget. And Dune had a 90% rating and had grossed $237 million. This matters, Judge, because yes, he's able to star in blockbusters, we know that. But also, like my opponent pointed out, he's been in projects like Lady Bird, more independent films. In fact, the majority of his career was built on these smaller projects. In fact, I have a quote from him in here as well that says, when we get to his net worth, it talks about how he's achieved his success with no hard drugs and no superhero movies. Something we see a lot of other actors like Robert Downey Jr. needing to bolster his profile. Additionally, let's talk about the actual accolades. At this point in his career, again, he really had his first role in 2011, so we're looking at a 13-year, 12-year, early this year, long career. In that time, he has had 41 award wins, already won 1 Oscar in 2018, and had 102 nominations overall. Somebody comparative, like my opponent mentioned, has had 25 award wins, 37 nominations. But even more, when we look at somebody like Robert De Niro, who's been doing this for 40 or 50 years, he has had 67 award wins and 167 nominations. So yes, more, but very close, especially given the scope of the career that has existed. My third and final contention for you is celebrity. Timothée Chalamet isn't just famous to be famous. He loves the art and loves the craft he does. His net worth as of 2024 is about $25 million, and like I said, he's done so with no hard drugs, no superhero movies. Additionally, he did an there was an actors on actors conversation with Robert Downey Jr., where Robert Downey Jr. said he's actually intimidated by Timothée Chalamet, a little starstruck when he met him, and felt like he was training his replacement. Additionally, Vanity Fair in 2018 talks about how when he was on a movie called A Rainy Day in New York with Woody Allen, and after all of the scope about Woody Allen came out, we learned he's a creep. He actually donated his entire salary from that film to RAINN against domestic abuse. Timothée Chalamet puts his money where his mouth is. It doesn't matter if he's still having to attend auditions every week. We know he's a talented actor. Up on screen, he's able to move audiences in a way that is captivating, and because of that, we understand that his stardom was well earned. And Judge, the fact that you didn't know who he was shows you that we don't have this idea of him being overrated, because many people still don't even know. My opponent never addressed that further. Thank you.
My judge ready? 2 minutes cross-examination?
Mm-hmm.
Liz, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Amazing speech as expected. Got a couple questions of clarification. So you talked about how handsome Timothée Chalamet. Even though I'm on video, I will agree. He's very handsome.
Hard to debate that point. Yeah.
How often is someone's physical attributes connected to their talent when it comes to their vocation?
Well, so first of all, I was discussing these things separately. His talent is another point of analysis that I did engage with. But it does matter when we talk about things like celebrity or the amount of Instagram and Twitter followers he has, to acknowledge that it's about more than just how successful or talented the person is.
Gotcha. So you talked about Dune, Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird, all movies that are out there. When were these movies made, by the way? Do we know?
So most of these happened, I believe, in the past 5 or 6 years. He got his first role in 2011. It was like a small role in a TV show. But even when he was a kid, he was hustling. He was doing commercials, working on Broadway, off-Broadway shows.
Gotcha.
He's been working his whole life
when he was
as
a kid.
as many child actors.
When he was a
do.
kid. Gotcha. So
Sure.
he was a
Well,
kid.
Not during these productions. The one we just mentioned have happened over the past 5 or so years.
Oh, gotcha. No, I'm saying he was a kid when he got started on Broadway.
Off-Broadway.
Off-Broadway.
Yeah, he
Gotcha.
did not enter Broadway until I believe 2014,
Yeah,
2015.
off-Broadway, Broadway happens in New York, it's still New York theater.
We
correct?
both know there's a very different capacity between what can constitute an off-Broadway show and a Broadway show.
Awesome, no, 100%. How might we ascertain that he got some of these Broadway jobs as a very
absolutely,
young kid?
Absolutely, there were opportunities put in front of him, but it's on him to seize that. We see several
Gotcha.
other
How
child
did
actors.
he-
I'll finish my answer real quick.
I apologize.
We see several other child actors like Jeanette McCurdy be forced into these roles when they were a kid, get
Yes.
out and speak out against that, and never want to act again. The difference is Timothée Chalamet has made it his priority. He even attended Columbia. He
Gotcha.
attended a dramatic art school in high school. Like,
Awesome.
He has done his part to make it matter.
Awesome. So two last questions. One, can you kind of finish this phrase for me? It's a kind of famous phrase. It's not what you know, but...
I'm not sure I know the phrase.
No? Okay.
Sorry.
So, no, that's all I need. Thank you so much.
And regardless, he still knows it.
The dreaded 3-minute half speech.
Every single room I've been in here, I forget that this is here.
All right, Lindsay, you ready?
Yeah.
Judge, you ready? All right, very excited that we get to talk about such a consequential topic in today's world. So, first of all, we see Lindsay basically at the top when it comes to personal, her first contention that she talks about how attractive, and I can see he's a very attractive man, he's very physically appealing, but at the same time, I tried to clarify in cross-examination, your attractiveness, one, is not something you earn, and God, it's only up to God to decide if it's something that you deserve. So when we look at the definitions that we come from or are utilizing as the lens for today's round, it's important that we lean on those words of earning and deserving. Did he earn his attractiveness? Does he deserve his attractiveness? One, we know he didn't do, and the other is just in the eyes of God or the universe, whoever you might believe in. The second is she talks about that he engages with his fans. I agree, he does a great job of engaging with his fans because he has to overcompensate for the lack of talent that he has, solely because he hasn't auditioned for anything since he was a teenager. Because there's a lack of talent, quality here. She talks about he's engaging with his fans, that he has amazing relationships. I concede that, I'm sure he does. There's a difference between the quality of relationships you have and the quality of the work that you do. The relationships that he has with his fans and the relationships that he has coming from his family, generations removed, are highlighting why he's getting so many of these opportunities. She talks about him being a fashion icon and that he has, the new masculinity. All this thing is actually subjective, which, the whole round's subjective to be 100% honest. But all this necessarily proves is that he has an amazing press team. There are tons of people out there that have amazing press teams, huge followers on social media, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily deserve those, or when the quality of your work should dictate in a meritocracy like America what jobs that you get. It's the same thing. If you can't plumb a toilet, you probably don't have an opportunity to earn a job as a plumber. If you can't deliver, solid auditions, what are the chances that your connections and not the quality of your work are leading to those actual results? The second contention Lindsay puts forth is professional, that it was on him to secure these opportunities, but I tried to highlight when she talked about these opportunities of him starting off Broadway at a very young age, how did some of these opportunities come? Was it the fact that you grew up in the same building as Larry David, your grandfather was a screenwriter, or one of the most successful actors of all time, and your mother was very around on Broadway? We see that he had advantages that of course he could take advantage of and he could access that other people didn't have, but that does not show that he earned or deserved any of the claim that he has. She talks about Dune, Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird. I asked, when did these amazing, in the words of the negation, properties, when were they made? I asked a cross-examination. She said within the past 5 or 6 years, and I don't think there could be any better answer that makes you want to cast a ballot in favor of the affirmation, because every single one of those movies, people had to audition for probably every single part, except for Chalamet's. He's the guy that did not have to audition and actually earn or deserve his part. So for those reasons, I asked for a ballot in favor of the affirmation.
Right, Keithen, you ready?
Ready.
well? All right, y'all, I'm just as sad as you, but this is the last time you're going to hear me speak today. So in this speech, I'm going to boil down this really complicated round and make sure you feel comfortable voting to the side of the negation before we walk out of here. Let's remind ourselves of the resolution. Timothée Chalamet is overrated. Let's remind ourselves of that two-pronged burden I placed on Keithen that he really didn't engage with during his last speech. First, this idea of is. We have to look at the status quo, the actual scope of what's happening now. And additionally, this idea of overrated requires us to have a bright line. It is not enough for my opponent to say, well, he didn't earn everything he has. Well, first off, he didn't really show us that. He uses a lot of conjecture to imply that these connections gained him these roles versus actually encouraged him or gave him opportunities that he had to seize. But additionally, he doesn't show us what the right amount is. And this matters, Judge. To know that we're doing too much of anything, we have to know what the right amount is. My opponent really talked about this on two fronts, even though he tries to make it seem a lot more spread out. First, he essentially says that Timothée Chalamet doesn't earn the material success in terms of film roles or accolades, and secondly, that he doesn't deserve the celebrity. He talks about TikTok or Twitter here. Judge, I've shown you why both of those are inaccurate. Let's engage first with the personal side of that, talking about the fame he's received on places like TikTok, stuff of that nature. In the same way that my opponent says he doesn't control his genetic code, he shouldn't receive a benefit for it, he also shouldn't receive a harm for it. That would be contradictory logic. Additionally, what I give you in my contention, for contention 1, we talk about the way he takes care of himself. When we talk about how attractive somebody is, the way that they groom themselves is a large part of that. Knowing that he, showers regularly, dresses nice, all of those factors make him more attractive. Additionally, the point that he really didn't address is this idea that he ushered in a new era of masculinity, countering toxic masculinity in a bold new way, especially on places like the red carpet, where that has long-standing been very hard to do. This matters, Judge. We've seen fans be very receptive to this, not because he was given God's great looks, but because of how he has chosen to utilize those. But more than that, I also talk about his personality, the way he treats other people. Judge, the way that you treat somebody else is entirely in your court. And Timothée Chalamet, even if he was given a silver spoon, which I don't think he was, but even if he was, he has chosen to remain kind. He has chosen to know the crew members' names on set, even though he may never have to interact with them, maybe the top billed star. It matters that he is kind to others and that is his reputation in Hollywood. But additionally, let's think about the way his own colleagues talk about him. Robert Downey Jr. in that Actors on Actors conversation said that he, again, is intimidated by Timothée Chalamet because he's clearly his replacement, a talented young actor. But now let's move towards the professional side of this. Judge, my opponent wants you to believe that Timothée Chalamet doesn't deserve professional success because he came from a family that had acting involved, and because of this idea that he knew people, right? But that he hasn't auditioned. Judge, there's a reason he hasn't had to audition in a while, and that's because people see him and they know that he is right for their role. They know that they are lucky and they can get him to work on their movies because of the talent that he has and what he brings. But that's not just my analysis. When we look at how well these movies perform, things like Wonka, Call Me By Your Name, Dune, and other things in his repertoire as well have all been able to be successful because he is their leading man. He gets people to show up and support these franchises because they love Timothée Chalamet. That matters. It is one reason these studios are clamoring to get him in. But my opponent also ignores the depth of what Timothée Chalamet has done. He is not a one-note actor. He can sing and dance like he does in Wonka. He can act in independent films like he did in Lady Bird. And he can act in blockbusters. But at no point has he had to sell himself out and do something like a superhero movie, which I love, but to him would indicate a failure in his career. Timothée Chalamet has worked hard. Yes, he came from a situation where his mom had been an actress. But again, let's look at his sister was given the same exact opportunity and was interested in the same exact career and was not able to be successful. Remind ourselves it's too late in the debate for Keithen to bring up any new lines of argumentation. But what I want to do with these last few seconds is offer you some voters or reasons why you should sign your ballot to the negation. And first is going to be work ethic. Work ethic. Judge Timothée Chalamet, since he was a kid, has been showing up to these auditions, showing up to the studios, and being able to work. Even if his mom put him there, it's him who had to do it, and he did not burn out in the way that other child stars did. In fact, he wasn't even a child star. It took until he was out of college for him to be able to actually start claiming the successes of 2011. It matters, Judge. Second voter for you today is going to be on that word of overrated. He has to, in order for Keithen to win, we need to be seeing that he has achieved something he doesn't deserve. Keithen has not engaged with that framework today. He does not show us what he does deserve. He does not show us what makes him not deserve this. In fact, he does not talk about his actual talents at all. Judge, if you can find one place on your flow where Keithen has told you Timothée Chalamet is a bad actor, go ahead and vote for him, because he never said that, because Timothée Chalamet is a talented actor who has worked hard for everything he's earned.
All right, Lindsay, you ready?
Yeah.
Judge, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, last 3 minutes of Nepo babies going crazy. No, I'm just joking. So, I'll go over a little bit of reputation, and then I'll give you some voters for, like I said, one of the most consequential topics that you probably debated all week or judged all weekend. So, top case, Lindsay basically talks about the burden. She reemphasizes the burden of his versus now. I don't have any reputation for this. Yes, 100% agree. As in present tense, he has a bunch of things, a bunch of movie roles, a bunch of success, a bunch of attention that he did not deserve, specifically because he did not earn them. We see a lot about deserving, but we don't see a lot of reputation on the idea of earning. Because earning, I think here in the debate, I didn't walk in and, Lindsay's, in my opinion, probably the greatest debater I've ever seen, but that doesn't mean she automatically wins every single round because of work that she did 8 years ago. She's got to come in and earn that in the same way that Chalamet, same year, 8 years, has not done anything. So we also see that Lindsay talks about that he showers to maintain his attractiveness, allegedly. But let's say that he does shower to maintain his attractiveness. I concede that. But I do know what he doesn't do to maintain his work ethic or to maintain his competitive edge. And that's something he doesn't do that most actors have to do, which is audition. They see a part, they have to go earn it. And that specifically connects the thread that Lindsay talked about when she said specifically in her last speech that people support him in their movies because they see him, they would be lucky to have him, and he's the best person for the part. How do we know if there's not 1,000 or 1,000,000 other actors out there that would have been more successful, would have won more awards, would have had a better job, and actually maybe even been more of a heartthrob compared to Timothée Chalamet in the last 8 years? There are thousands and thousands of talented individuals out there that haven't gotten the chance to audition or even put out their best foot forward to show why they might be the best for any of those movies that have happened in the last 8 years. Specifically, those definitions are going to be the reason you cast your ballot in favor of the affirmation. She does talk about deserving, but she doesn't talk nearly as much about earning. So we also see that the voters coming from the negation are his work ethic, that he showed up since he was a little kid. Of course he showed up since he was a little kid. As we highlighted in the very first speech, he might have been there at 6 months old, going to work with his mom and his dad and his granddad, who was screenwriting for literally Oscar award winners. Like we said in the first speech, he's Hollywood royalty. He was born into this. Queen Elizabeth, as I said in the very first round when it comes to royalty, was born into the crown. It's not something that she had to earn. Timothée Chalamet, especially over the last 8 years, because of his Hollywood royalty, that Nepo baby's going crazy, who has been born into success, hasn't had to earn it the way so many of the other actors that we named have talked about. The last voter that I'll give you, outside of the last 8 years, is the comparison in that very first speech to all those other esteemed and acclaimed actors that have significantly less attention than somebody like Timothée Chalamet, who hasn't auditioned in 8 years. Always amazing. 100%.
Always good.
Yes, yes.
And is our judge
Judge
shaking?